And we hit the lottery here with all of these kicks, by the way. So we have like 4 kicks in a row with instant vivifies. Insane. Absolutely insane. So you could see very similar to the rotation section. All I'm trying to do is keep my modifiers up on my teammates as much as I can and then do damage. That's all I'm trying to do. Great disperse there from my Shadow Priest. Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Mysticall. Today, I am bringing you the Mistweaver 11.2 PvP guide. This is going to have both hybrid and crackle. I kind of liked how I did it last time, and if you enjoyed it, please let me know. It's going to have both parts in it. It's going to have everything you're going to need to know how to play Mistweaver in PvP. Every single situation. We're going to go through talents. I'm going to go through rotations for both of them. I'm going to have some games as well as some voiceover just to go over some commentary about some of the games, as well as macros, tips and tricks, and add-ons. So with that said, let's jump right into the video. I want to quickly go over the 11.2 changes that happened in Mistweaver. There weren't many, but I think some of them are quite important. So the first one is that Shayloon's gift got a 20% healing buff. So that means just a flat 20% healing increase, which is fantastic. It's one of our main sources of healing, especially since it's instant. So any buffs to Shayloon's gift is amazing. There was the Chi Harmony nerf, which is a pretty substantial nerf actually in PvP. This got nerfed by 10%. So this was originally 25% in PvP, and now it only gives 15%, which is a little unfortunate. It was nerfed because of PvE, and now it is nerfed in PvP. So kind of unfortunate. I don't think it's a necessary nerf at all, but 10% nerf there. Big buff, Revival and Restoral both got buffed by 100% as long as you're in a group with 5 or less players. So if you're doing 2s, 3s, or solo shuffle, Revival and Restore healing is buffed by 100%. If you're doing BG Blitz or RBGs, you will not get that buff. It is not buffed 100% to groups that are more than 5 players. So a little unfortunate for the, the brackets that actually need this buff, where it's, obviously more impactful, but that's okay. I'll still take it for Arena and Solo Shuffle for sure. And then finally, the biggest change, in my opinion, is the Vivacious Vivification rework. So originally, last patch, every 10 seconds, you got an instant Vivify. That is gone. And now it is after casting Rising Sun Kick or Rushing Wind Kick, your next Vivify becomes instant and its healings increased by 20%. So if I go over here and I kick, I get the buff right here. So my next Vivify is instant and its healings increased by 20%. So those are the changes that happened in Mistweaver this patch. Some of them were pretty good. I really like the Revival and Restore buff. The Shayloon's gift buff, of course, is always welcome. The biggest one I'm a little salty about is the Vivacious change because it heavily impacts Crackle Mistweaver. I think is absolutely incredible for hybrid Mistweaver, by the way. But obviously, I wish it was good for both playstyles. But those are the changes going into this new patch. The other new thing that they added in 11.2 is they added a cloak. So this is the Reshii Wraps. And I've seen some back and forth on this, and I've done some testing on the PTR, so I'd like to give you my thoughts. So first of all, when this is fully upgraded, it's going to be 730 item level, which is really good because Conquest Gear only goes up to 723. Now, I don't know because what they did last patch is there was a belt. I don't think I still have it. Yeah, this belt right here. So this belt was able to upgrade past Conquest Gear, but in PvP, it got scaled down to the Conquest max item level. I do not know if they're doing the same thing with this cloak. I haven't been able to test that because this isn't above Conquest yet, so I really don't know. So there might be a chance where what I'm saying now doesn't matter because it's just going to scale down. However, even if it does get scaled down, the stats on this are kind of ridiculous. So it's very similar to the Engineering Helm or the Engineering Bracers. So if you don't know, engineers can make a helm or bracers where it's 1 stat, but it's like 2 stats converted into 1 pretty much. So it's just a lot of 1 stat. And that's what this cloak is doing as well. You can get 1 stat on it, but it's absolutely insane. And I only have the lesser fiber. You can actually get an even better stat on it to give you more stats. In general, I would recommend unlocking the cloak. One, because I think it's really good for PvP. Even though the effect is nerfed by I think 66%, I still think it's good in PvP. But 2, it's super easy to upgrade. You just have to PvP. You just PvP and you get like some currency to upgrade it. I think it's still really good. And then 3, it's warbound, so you could just have alts that have this cloak, right? It's super easy to unlock on your alt, and then the upgrades are also warbound, which is fantastic. So I would say overall, I would unlock the cloak just because I think it will be good for PvP. The stats are really good too. If you need a lot of 1 stat, like you need a little bit more verse, just go for the cloak and just throw one of the fibers on it, and you just have an insane amount of that stat. So yeah, I would 100% go for the cloak. It's an hour and a half quest line. It's nothing crazy. Nothing's really that difficult. But yeah, that's my opinion on it. Just unlock it. I think it's gonna be good for PvP, no matter what. All right, so now let's talk about Mistweaver specific things, and I want to start off by going over whatever the best race is. Starting with Horde. First of all, the overall best race is Undead. Without a doubt in my mind, this is the best race. It gives you Will the Forsaken, which gets you out of fears, charms, and sleep effects. This is, I can't even tell you how amazing this is. This is so good for evokers, especially warlocks, priests, warriors, demon hunters have a fear. A lot of classes have fears now. So Undead is so good. It only puts your trinket on a 30-second cooldown. So essentially, if you're playing against classes with fears, it gives you 2 trinkets, which is really, really nice. So Undead, overall best race. Obviously, for Horde, it is the best race. Sadly, there really isn't any other race that comes close. You could potentially go Orc. I don't know. Hardiness got nerfed by, I don't know, 50% or something. It got gutted. So Orc really isn't worth it. Panda might be the only other better option just because of Quaking Palm. It gives you extra CC. Outside of that, I don't see any other race being anywhere close to Undead. As far as alliance goes, you actually have more options for alliance. It just depends on what the meta is. So if Mistweaver needs mana, Night Elf is the best race just because you could shout him out drinking 3s. Obviously in solo shuffle that doesn't matter too much, so Night Elf is okay. Gnome, really good if balanced shards are good. So if balanced shards are meta, this is insane. This lines up with the Root Beam, with Escape Artist, and that is just amazing. So this completely negates their go essentially. So Gnome is also really good. And then you also have Gnome and Dark Iron, or sorry, you have Dwarf and Dark Iron Dwarf. So these two Dwarf racials right here, they both dispel bleeds, curses, poisons on you, and then Dark Iron Dwarf gives you a buff based on how many debuffs you removed. And then Dwarf gives you, I think, a physical damage increase, like it reduces the physical damage on you by a little bit, maybe a few percent. So these are both also really good. I would say the best for alliance is Night Elf and Gnome, and then the 2 dwarf races are the 3rd best depending on the meta. But overall, if you're looking for the absolute best race, Undead, without a doubt in my mind, is the best race in the game for Mistweaver Monk. A question I get quite often is when to swap between Crackle and Hybrid, and I would say last patch it kind of depended on the comp, but in 11.2 in season 3, I think Hybrid is going to be your go-to in about 95% of matchups. Hybrid brings a lot of healing and, more importantly, a lot of damage. It's not even close if you compare Hybrid to Crackle Mistweaver. You can do so much damage, and even in short amounts of time, it is so good. And the healing is just as good as Crackle. That's the biggest thing. You're not giving up healing to do damage. You're doing both at the same time, which is why it's so good. If you like doing damage to heal, this is obviously your go-to. I've seen a lot of TPS players play Hybrid, and I actually enjoy watching them do it because they actually are better than me when they're just starting out. Because as a healer, I'm just trained to just stay 40 yards away and heal. Hybrid is like the exact opposite. Don't forget the rushing wind kick is a 25-yard cone, so you do have to be kind of close to the fight. So overall, I would say Hybrid is just better damage. Healing is just as good as Crackle. You don't have to worry about interrupts that much because you're not really casting as much as you're playing with Crackle. And overall, just it's a very fun play style, especially if you like doing damage. As far as stats go, you're going to want to play Haste Verse. And I do get asked quite often why Haste is so much better than Mastery. It was just due to a few nerfs going into season 2. They nerfed Resplendent Mist, and then they also nerfed Mastery overall by like 10%. And then they also, these 2-point talents are really brutal. So if you wanted to play Resplendent Mist, you'd either have to drop like Rising Mist and Tea of Plenty to get it, and you're just giving up too much to get extra Mastery healing. However, also Haste affects your hot tick rate. So Enveloping Mist was buffed, and I think Renewing Mist was buffed as well. So our hots got buffed and our direct healing got nerfed, which just makes Haste so good. A lot of your healing breakdown, I don't know if I have any. I don't. I have one healing breakdown. You can see my Renewing Mist and Envelopment. These are my hots right here. They're my top healing. And in bigger, so I think this was the what is this called? The Brawl. So in a little bit of a larger group setting, Renewing Mist is going to get more value because there's more people for it to jump to. But Envelopment Mist and Vivify will always be your number one heal. Envelopment Mist, hands down, normally my number one heal, followed by Vivify, or sometimes I swap. So those are really important to remember. But that's why Haste Verse is so important. Haste affects your hots. Verse is super important because it's the only stat in the game that's going to help your Chi Cocoons. So Chi Cocoons are activated when you press your Chi-Ji or Yulon. and you get little Chikakuns right here. This one's absorbing 1,000,000. It's an absorption shield. Versatility increases your healing, the healing you do, and reduces the damage you take. So the more versatility you have, the more your absorption shields do, which is really, really powerful, especially since Chi and Yulon are on a global. It's a little awkward, but those Chikakuns, they actually have saved plenty of my teammates' lives. So those are the stats. Haste Verse, very, very important to stack that as much as you can. As far as gearing in general goes, I would highly recommend getting the 4 set this season. This is a very, very good tier set. So what it does is the 2 set, whenever you gain vitality, and I'll explain what vitality is. It's part of a hero talent. Essentially, whenever you heal or rushing wind kick, you're going to get vitality. And this increases your chance that your Tiger Palm unleashes a harmonic surge, dealing nature damage, split in front of your enemies, and then also healing your teammates up to 5 injured allies. So one of the biggest downsides to hybrid Mistweaver, in my opinion, is its spread healing lacks. And you'll see in the Crackle section when to play Crackle, it's pretty much you only want to play Crackle against spread damage like Acid Rogues, Affy Warlocks. And this basically helps cover one of your biggest weaknesses, which is so powerful. Now, don't forget that this is nerfed in PvP. It's only 33% effective in PvP, but it's still decent. You know, right now it's doing 200k healing. We don't even have season 3 gear yet. This might go up to 500k healing split, but anytime you get this, you can have more instant healing. And then the 4 set's even better. So whenever you cast Thunder Focus Heat, it guarantees that your next 2 casts of Tiger Palm will trigger this harmonic surge, which is so good. So not only can you get a proc chance for it, you also get guaranteed healing because you can kind of control when you get it. You know what I mean? If I'm close to somebody and I need to do some healing, I go for a Thunder Focus Heat. I'm obviously going to go for a Tiger Palm first to get that extra healing, put up my Aspect of Harmony, and then you're able to heal and do more instant healing, which is, it's so good. Instant spread healing is why it's so good. So that's fantastic. I would highly recommend getting the tier set, and I would recommend getting every piece except for the gloves. So the gloves are crit mastery, absolutely brutal stats. I mean, every single piece of this gear is so bad. But crit verse, this is high verse, which is really good because you're going to be kind of close to the fight. So high verse is always welcome. Haste mastery doesn't do that much good anymore, but still it's high haste, which is nice. The chest is a little unfortunate. It's still haste mastery, but it's high mastery. It is what it is. Crit mastery, this is just brutal. And then we have crit haste here, but it's high haste, which is really, really nice. So overall, you do lose some verse, but I'll explain one sec, gearing wise, what you want to do to kind of help with that. But overall, get everything except for the gloves, because I think crit mastery is absolutely brutal. Now, as far as gearing goes, because there's no versatility on this gear, I would recommend buying essentially everything from the Conquest vendor. The only thing I wouldn't get from the Conquest vendor is your rings and neck. So here's how I'm going to gear going into the new season. I'm going to use the cloak. I'm probably going to put versatility on it. I might put haste. It depends, because in season 3 we're gonna have a lot more stats. It depends. It's gonna be haste or verse. I'm going to craft the rings and the neck because that just gives a lot of secondary stats, a lot of haste. I'm gonna get 4 set on the helm, shoulders, chest, and legs. And then for everything else, I'm gonna buy Conquest gear. So I'm gonna buy Conquest for everything else: the wrists, the gloves, the waist, the boots, the weapon, and the trinkets. And if versatility is a little low, I might buy 1 ring just for the high verse on it, or I might put verse on the cloak. It just depends on how much verse I have. But that's how my gearing is going to go. As far as embellishments go as well, I'm going to just play Energy Redistribution Beacon. There's really nothing else that's that good, if I'm being quite honest with you. I just don't see a world where there's anything that good. I've tried. The healing breakdown in this brawl was, I think, decent. You know, it's there. I don't even see it. It's all right. Yeah, it's just not insane. It really isn't. No embellishments really are. You could try the versatility, like the Dusk Thread lining. I used to play that for extra verse. That actually, if verse is still low, I might drop on Energy Redistribution Beacon and then play the Dusk Thread lining that gives verse when you're above 80% health. That's also a good option. So those two embellishments, just depending on the stats, but that's how I'm going to gear going into season 3. All right, let's talk about talents now. So I don't want to talk about a lot of talents because in my opinion, this new talent tree is just modifiers essentially, but I want to highlight some kind of important ones. So the first one, fast feet. This makes it so your rising sun kick. And I just want to note, whenever you see rising sun kick, it also means rushing wind kick. So just keep that in mind. And this is all for the hybrid playstyle, of course. So fast feet increases the damage of your rising sun kick or rushing wind kick by 70%. And then spinning crane kick damage is increased. I don't see anything crazy. I talked about, so vivacious vivification after your rising sun kick, your next vivify is instant and its healings increased by 20%. This is going to be the bread and butter of your rotation. And after doing a lot of testing, vivify is my number 1 heal. Envelop Mist, Vivify, number 1 heal, but this is so good if you're able to maximize it. So you can see I have no instant Vivify, I have to cast it, but if I rushing wind kick, I get the buff. I have this weak aura right here, and then it's instant Vivify. Fantastic, really, really good. Port, so this is just a major defensive, and I have a whole defensive section towards the end of the video that I'll talk about, but Transcendence, you port to your Transcendence, boom. And then if you play Escape from Reality, you can port a second time to your last port. Pretty cool. Very, very important defensive cooldown. Should be your number 1 cooldown. I kind of like this animation on me. I don't know what it is, but I like that circle. Song of Chi-Ji / Ring of Peace. I love Ring of Peace. I think it is one of my favorite talents in the game. It's one of the reasons I play Mistweaver. I actually don't think it's good anymore. I genuinely mean this. Every single spec, every single class has a way to get through Ring of Peace. Whether it's Bladestorm from Warriors, Rogues being able to shadow step through it DRing with, Ellie Shaman Nox or Typhoon or anything like that. It's just so, and there's no way to track that DR either. Mobility is so high right now, and it just does, in my opinion, the only value Ring of Peace gets is if you're preventing people from going behind a pillar and LOSing your damage. That's it. I have primarily been playing Song of Chi-Ji. And it is so, I'm telling you, it's so good. And if you're newer to Mistweaver, I wouldn't recommend it because it does open you up to getting interrupted. And it kind of puts you out of position as well. So if you're newer to Mistweaver, I would just play, Ring of Peace. You'll be fine. No worries. But as you learn Mistweaver, I would recommend playing Song of Chi-Ji, especially, and you need to play Peace and Prosperity. If you're going to play Ring of Peace, you can drop Peace and Prosperity and go here. However, I play Song of Chi-Ji. So you want to play Peace and Prosperity. And what this does is it just puts your target to sleep for, I think it's 6 seconds or something like that. I think it's 6 seconds. And you have to cast it. But it's a short cast time with Peace and Prosperity. So that's why you play it. And you can get it at multiple people. I have so many videos of Song of Chi-Ji. I literally love Song of Chi-Ji so much. So Song of Chi-Ji is what I play. I even play, I used to not play it when I played with Warlocks. I play it with Warlocks. I play it with Priest. It's so good. Like if your DPS is struggling to get CC and you need an extra win condition, highly recommend playing Song of Chi-Ji. And then I'm just gonna give you guys the normal version of what people play, just because it's just the preferred way to play. I play hybrid, or I play Clash, and not a lot of people play it. I don't want to recommend something to people, and it's not the better version of it. So the next talents that you're going to want to play are the Expel Harm talents, which is Vigorous Expulsion. So this increases the healing of Expel Harm and the crit chance of it. And then you also have Strength of Spirit, which increases the healing of Expel Harm based on your health missing. And this is really good, by the way. This is really good because you're going to be close to the fight with Russian Wind Kick. And then you also have Fort Brew, which increases your current maximum health by 30% and reduces all damage you take by 30%. And then you want to reduce the cooldown on it by 30 seconds. So right here. So now it's a 1.5-minute cooldown with Expeditious Fortification. And that's pretty much the monk side of the tree. You get some extra damage, you get your port, you get some defensive with Diffuse and Fort Brew, and then extra healing for your Expel Harm, which is really, really nice. On the Mistweaver tree for hybrid, we are pretty much just focusing on healing. Again, a lot of these are just modifiers. I do want to talk about some though. Obviously, you have Life Cocoon. This is just an absorption shield. This is your primary healing cooldown. It has a 1.3-minute cooldown. Very important to rotate, but you cannot waste it. You also have Revival and Restoral. You're going to be playing Restoral about 99.99% of the time. The reason for that is because you can use this while stunned. Very important. They also heavily nerfed Revival's Dispel. It only dispels 3 harmful magic effects and then poison disease effects. It used to be all magical effects. Absolutely gutted because of BG Blitz. Hate to see it. It's still decent in BG Blitz, but Restore All you can use while stunned, which is what you need. And then also you get that 100% healing buff from this last patch, and it's really, really good. Mana Tea. So Mana Tea is a little weird, but it's really good as well. So every 250,000 mana you spend, you get 1 stack of Mana Tea. You also, there's a chance to get an extra stack based on your crit. So the stats from your tier set actually could help a little bit with getting stacks of Mana Tea. And then what you do is you consume these stacks of Mana Tea, and it restores mana and then reduces the mana of your spells by 30% per second for every stack that you consumed. So if you consumed 5 stacks of Mana Tea, you get 5 seconds of 30% reduction on your spells. This is really important. I would say I never see myself going over 5 stacks of Mana Tea at a time. I really, normally what I try to do, and of course I'll talk about this in the rotation, what I really tend to do is I have a weak warrior here that just track. I also look down here too, but I have 3 stacks of Mana Tea. What I'll do is I'll Mana Tea, and then Thunder Focus Tea and Envelop Mist. And one little trick here, and there's a tips and tricks section where I talk about a video I have, but throughout this video, I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks. You could actually use Thunder Focus Tea while channeling Mana Tea. So what I'll do is the most important spell you want to use with Mana Tea is Envelop Mist, because Envelop Mist is 105,000 mana, which is ridiculous. So you could reduce that by 30%. And I would recommend just whenever you feel like damage is coming, just Mana Tea, Thunder Focus Tea into an Envelop Mist. That's like the most important thing you can do. If you ever see yourself struggling with mana or having issues with mana, I guarantee you it's because you're definitely using Mana Tea, but you might not be comboing it with an Envelop Mist. So just keep that in mind. Envelop Mist is your highest cost spell. Try to always pair it with Mana Tea. Very important. And then obviously, of course, you're restoring mana, which is really, really good. You have Energizing Brew with Mana Tea. So Mana Tea now channels 50% faster and restores 20% mana. You actually don't play this a lot. This is the one flex talent you have, by the way, for the Mistweaver side of the tree, is this one talent. You either choose between damage or mana. That's it. That's your choice. You could pick either. Obviously, most people opt for damage. Obviously, yours truly being a healer main and mostly preferring Crackle over hybrid, I will always play defensive more than anything else. But I would recommend in solo shuffle, mana doesn't matter because the rounds are so short. So I would play Crackle. 2s, you're just going for damage. The only time you ever opt for mana is in 3s if you're playing against like a Holy Pally. But even then, I'm not going to lie, you're probably still going to lose on mana to a Holy Pally. So, take that and you could do more damage or still lose to Holy Pally with this talent. So keep that in mind. So next up is Chi-Ji. You're playing hybrid. This is one of your major cooldowns. This is a 1-minute cooldown because you're going to be playing Gift of Celestials, which I'll explain. Essentially what this does is you press Chi-Ji, and then any of your damaging spells gives you a stack of Chi-Ji, and at 3 stacks you get an instant Enveloping Mist. Pretty good. Spinning Crane Kick, Tiger Pump, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, very, very powerful. Also, it makes you immune to slows, which is also really important. I talked about it, but Gift of Celestials makes it so you invoke Chi-Ji as a 1-minute cooldown, but decreases its duration to 12 seconds. So because Chi-Ji is a 12-second duration, you cannot waste it. I would highly recommend using Chi-Ji after CC chains on you. After you're spam polyed, after you're spam cloned, anything like that, then you Chi-Ji. If you press Chi-Ji, nothing feels worse, trust me, nothing feels worse than when you press Chi-Ji and you're polyed. Let me trinket it, and then you're cloned, and then you're re-polyed, and then your whole Chi-Ji's gone. It's awful. Also, there is some mastery healing from Chi-Ji during this when you're using like your kicks and your physical spells, but it's not much. It's mostly you're trying to get those instant Enveloping Mists. Rapid Diffusion. So these two talents pair really well together. Rapid Diffusion. Rising Sun Kick and Enveloping Mist apply Renewing Mist for 6 seconds to an ally within 40 yards, which is really important. So Rushing Wind Kick, if I kick, you're going to see a Renewing Mist just hopped on over here. I think this guy has the animation right here. I can probably kick again soon and show you if you didn't see it. So the animation is just that green cloud. So I'm going to Rushing Wind Kick again. And you can see I went to this guy. So that guy got a Renewing Mist. And why that's important is because Chi Harmony, Renewing Mist increases its target's healing received from you by 15% for the first 8 seconds of its duration, but cannot jump to a new target. So I was testing between these two right here, by the way, but it's still I think Chi Harmony is just still so good with Rapid Diffusion. So what that means is if I put Renewing Mist on myself, and you see this animation right here, healing received from me increased by, it should be 15%, because in PvP it's 15%. So that's pretty good. It's you know, it is what it is. Even though it's nerfed, it's still bonus healing. It says 12%, so that's a little weird. I don't know if that's a bug or what, but that actually does seem like a bug. So the tooltip says 15%, the buff says 12%. So we'll see. I'll probably put a ticket in for that. But either way, you get a rushing wind kick, and then you get extra healing. So that's a really important modifier. And then we have the bread and butter of the build that makes it hybrid itself, and that's rushing wind kick. So rushing wind kick, what this does is this kicks somebody. It does 1.6 million damage. It might do more damage as we get more gear. Probably does, hopefully, but we'll see. But what's really important is it does nature damage, and that's actually a very interesting thing to know, and I'll explain why in a second. It splits evenly among people you target, but it also does more damage based on how many people you hit. So if you hit 5 people, you're going to do 30% more damage with it. So there's a trade-off for when it's single target. So for example, if you're trying to maximize, if you're trying to burst somebody in a stun, what you want to do is position yourself where you hit one person. That way that person gets the full 1.6 million hit. That's what you want, right? So you can see my rushing wind kick did 1.3 million. That's fine. Now, if you're trying to maximize your healing output, you want to hit as many people as possible. The reason for that is because of that last paragraph in it. It does 30% more. Well, it does 6% more damage for each person it hits, up to 30%. So if you hit 5 people, you're going to do 30% more healing. This includes pets as well. That's why Demo Warlocks, Unholy DKs, BM Hunters, they suffer so hard into hybrid Mistweaver because they don't have a choice. They're summoning ghouls, you know, Demo Warlocks are summoning imps. It is what it is. So what you're trying to do if you're maximizing your healing is you want to hit as many people as possible, because that rushing wind kick, the damage gets split among them, but the healing is actually increased because you're hitting more targets. So it's just a trade-off. If you're trying to do more healing, you want to kick into more people. If you're trying to do most damage, you know, you're doing 2s, trying to maximize damage, you're going to try to do single target damage. And then you also have Tea of Plenty with Thunder Focus Tea. So Thunder Focus Tea empowers your 2 next spells with your Focus Thunder. It actually empowers. So Thunder Focus Tea empowers a spell. Focus Thunder makes it so you empower 2 spells. And then Tea of Plenty empowers 2 more random spells. So for Tea of Plenty, it's going to empower either Envelop Mist, Expel Harm, or Rising Sun Kick, or Rushing Wind Kick at random. So the empowered spells from your Thunder Focus Tea, you're essentially going to be using it on Rising Sun Kick or Enveloping Mist. Rising Sun Kick reduce the cooldown by 9 seconds when you press it. So if I Thunder Focus Tea, and you could see everything like light up. You could see I got an empowered kick, I got an Expel Harm, and then I have 2 charges of my Thunder Focus Tea. I would highly recommend this week order. I made it. So if you ever have any questions about it, or if you want to make any updates, or if you want to see any updates, let me know. So what this is going to do is you're going to Rising Sun Kick, and they did fix the bug, so it no longer consumes a charge, and then it reduces the cooldown by 9 seconds. So now I have a 2-second kick, and then I also have an Expel Harm. So I just use that, by the way. You could just use it. Expel Harm, it gives you a Chi Cocoon, which is pretty nice, and then you can kick, and then you obviously instant vivify, and then kick, and then instant vivify, which is really, really good. So the other ones might be good to know as well, I guess, but essentially you're going to be using Envelop Mist for the, so what with Thunder Focusing Envelop Mist, it makes it so you immediately heal so the target for a heal, and then it's instant. That's the most important part, because I'm going to explain the rotation section. Mistweaver is all about modifiers, baby. That's all we're about. If you want to maximize your healing, you need to focus on your modifiers. So Thunder Focusing Envelop Mist to make instant is really good, and then you're going to be mostly kicking. Vivify costs no mana, and then Expel Harm gives you a Chi Cocoon, which is pretty nice because you're going to be in the fight a lot. So this Chi Cocoon was 1 million, which is pretty solid. And then I got 2 Enveloping Mist, and they're instant. Otherwise, you'd have to use Soothing Mist to channel Enveloping Mist, which is not ideal. But I guess I just talked about the whole tree, but I guess Shayloon's Gift is the last one you want to kind of think about. And this is, you don't actually have to think about this one too much. You're going to be playing Shayloon's Gift, you're going to play Veil of Pride, and you're going to play Emperor's Favor. So every baseline, every 8 seconds, Shayloon's Gift gives you 1 cloud or 1 stack of Shayloon's Gift. What Veil of Pride does is that cuts it in half. So every 4 seconds, you get a stack of Shayloon's Gift. which is really nice as long as you're in combat. And then finally, Emperor's Favor. Shaylin's Gift healing is increased by 150%, and it's instant, but it only heals one target because normally it's an AoE heal. So pretty good. You can use it with, I don't know, 8 or more stacks. Just make sure you have your modifiers out. Your modifiers are mostly going to be your Chi Harmony from Renewing Mist, your Enveloping Mist, because Enveloping Mist makes it so your target takes 40% more healing from you, and then just boop, boom, Shaylin's Gift. Insane. So those are the talents. I just wanted to do a little deep dive on them just because I do get questions throughout the season, and I thought I would have this is a good place to kind of explain every talent from Mistweaver. So if you have any questions, let me know, but that's the talent tree. As far as hero talents go, you're only going to be playing Master of Harmony. One, because your force set is so good and it works with Master of Harmony so well, and hybrid in general. It just weaves together. It's fantastic. But two, this tree was just made for hybrid Mistweaver. So first of all, you get Aspect of Harmony. This was the vitality your tier set is talking about. So 10% of your damage dealt and 30% of your healing gets stored as vitality. You need to be in combat for this, by the way. Very important. Be in combat for this. Really, really important. And then after you press Thunder Focus Tea for 10 seconds, your spells and abilities draw upon that stored vitality to deal 40% additional healing. So, and then I'll show some other talents. But you can see this weak aura right here. This is a vitality weak aura. And what this does is it's just going to store it. The cap for it is nerfed in PvP to 50%. So just keep that in mind. But essentially what you're trying to do is before you press Thunder Focus Tea, you want to make sure your vitality is stored up. I'm going to try to build up that vitality before I show anything else. As far as other talents go, Harmonic Gambit. So during Aspect of Harmony, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm also withdraw vitality to damage enemies for an additional 20% over 8 seconds. So you can see how this, whenever you press Thunder Focus Tea, your stored vitality does 40% additional healing. This helps you do 20% more damage, which is just insane. I'm trying to think of any other talents that are kind of important. I think Wave 1,000 Strikes. This makes it so your Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm contribute 30% additional vitality. This just helps you, because you're kicking so much, this helps you build up that vitality even quicker. And then finally, Coalescence. So when Aspect of Harmony deals damage or heals, it has a chance to spread to a nearby target. When you directly attack or heal an affected target, it has a chance to intensify. So any targets damaged or healed by your Aspect of Harmony take 20% increased damage or healing from you, which is massive. So right here, I'm going to show you, I get questions, this debuff. So I'm going to press Thunder Focus Tea very quickly. I am in PvP combat. I have my stored vitality. I can get it to 50% if I want to. There we go. And if I press Thunder Focus Tea, it's going to draw upon it. But if I kick, boom, it's going to get this debuff right here. So this is how I know these targets are going to be taking increased damage from me, by the way. Very, very important. So I have this set up in Omni Auras. I have that profile shared with everybody, but that's how I track who I'm doing increased damage to. And that was the biggest thing that kept me from being good at hybrid. Was I was pressing Thunder Focus Tea, I was kicking into people, and then I was like swapping targets, or I was healing or whatever. You don't want that. You want to track this and do damage. And I also track this on my party frames as well to do damage that I heal, because that way I know I'm healing, doing additional healing to my teammates as well. So that's the full tree. Those are your hero talents as well. Very important. And then I would say one more thing is Endless Drought makes it so Thunder Focus Tea has an additional charge. So normally Thunder Focus Tea only has one charge. And this is why I feel like Master of Harmony puts Conduit of the Celestials, it's just a few steps ahead of it, because it's that extra charge of Thunder Focus Tea is so important for hybrid, even for Crackle too. It's just so good. You know, it kind of helps with doing damage output, doing healing, and then obviously being able to empower so many spells so much more often is very important for Mistweaver. All right, PvP talents. So your PvP talents really, it's Peace Weaver and it's Zen Spheres, and I'll explain these in a moment. So Peace Weaver, what this does is Restoreal's cooldown is reduced by 16% and then provides immunity to magical damage and harmful effects for 2 seconds. So keep that in mind. That any magical damage or effects for 2 seconds. And this can be used in so many different ways. This is why I love it. It's so flexible. Now, most of the time, Revival, you know, you're going to use it for the heal, especially after the recent buff, but it also immunes damage. So let's just say the healing wasn't as good anymore, or how it was the last 2 seasons. You could Revival or Restoral. So you could Restore while stunned, right? And you can immune a Chaos Bolt, right? A Chaos Bolt midair. Let me just let me put war mode on real quick just so I could show the buff, because there we go. So whoever gets healed by Restoral or Revival gets the buff. And let's just say you're stunned, you press Restoral. If there's a Chaos Bolt midair, it's going to immune as long as your teammate has the buff. So if I get the buff here, there should be a Peaceweaver buff, 2 seconds, they're immune. It works for CC as well, which is also really important. Polymorphs, it's so good. You can immune Poly, Cyclone, Fear, anything like that. It's so important for stuff like that, for CC and damage. So keep that in mind. Peaceweaver, mandatory 100% of the time. You're never changing Peaceweaver. Zen Spheres is interesting. So what this does is you can put a Sphere of Hope or Sphere of Despair, depending on who you're using it on. So if you're using Sphere of Hope on a teammate, it's going to heal them. It has a small initial heal, but more importantly, it increases your healing done to them by 15%. That's just a 15% heal, which is crazy. Sphere of Despair. So when you use Zen Sphere on an enemy, they take some damage, and then the target does 3% less damage, and then takes 10% increased damage from all sources. So you can have one of each up at a time. So I can put Zen Sphere up on... We're not in war mode. Do my eyes deceive me? Zen Sphere here? Huh. It's not letting me use it even though I'm in war mode. I'm not sure why. Do I need to be in like combat? I guess I need to be in combat. Interesting. It wasn't like that before. So Sphere of Despair, I put it on an enemy, and I have Sphere of Hope. There's a 6-second cooldown, by the way. And then Sphere of Hope. So you can have one of each. This guy's Sphere of Despair. So this guy takes 10% increased damage and then deals 3% less damage. And then Sphere of Hope receives 15% more healing from the monk. Very important. This is, it's 15% extra healing. So again, I talked about Mistweaver being all about modifiers. That's one of them. And then finally in the last slot, it sucks, but Mistweaver, you're battling between 3 other talents that you kind of need to choose between, which is kind of rough. So Eminence, what Eminence does is this allows you to port while stunned, and then the cooldown's reduced by 15 seconds if you are not. So again, a little tip here, The first stun, so what's saying is if you use your port without being stunned, the cooldown on your port is reduced by 15 seconds, so it makes it 30-second cooldown. Now, how this interacts with Escape from Reality is because you have 2 ports, if your second port is used while you're not stunned, you get the 15-second cooldown. So if I'm just stunned right now and I port and then I don't port again, or I port while stunned, my port's gonna be a 45-second cooldown. But if I port out of a stun and I port back, it should be a 30-second cooldown, but I guess I'm not in combat, so it's bugged. I don't know, that's weird. But yeah, as long as the second port is used while you're not in a stun, you have a 30-second port, which is really important versus like, I would use this versus like RMP. Anything that requires a setup, right? Jungle, which is Hunter Feral, has a lot of stuns for setup. Holy Priest, essentially. RMP, which has a bunch of stuns, I would use Eminence against. Zen Focus T is the next one. So whenever you stun the Focus T, you're also immune to silence or interrupts for 5 seconds. This is really good versus anything with range interrupts, or if you're playing a melee cleave. So if you're playing a melee cleave like Ret Warrior, Turbo, I don't know, Warrior Windwalker Ret or something like that, Demon Hunter Warrior, or DK Warrior TSG. Basically, if you're playing with 2 melee and you're the only person that teams can kick, I'd play Zen Focus T a lot of the time, just because you are the only person that casts. And even though you don't do a whole lot of casting, you still do cast some things. And if you get locked out on Soothing Mist, you're locked out of everything, essentially. So, or locked out of all your healing. So keep that in mind. Zen Focus T is good when you're playing with 2 melee. And then finally, Grapple Weapon. This is really good versus melee. So Warriors, essentially, I would say Grapple Weapon's really good against. Really bad versus Demon Hunters because they can get rid of their own disarm. But Grapple Weapon, I would use it versus Warriors, where the arms are Fury. It doesn't matter. Just make sure they're not using Blade Storm. And then Rogues. So Rogues and Warriors is what I would use Grapple Weapon for, just because they rely so heavily. It really locks them out of pretty much everything. So those are your PvP talents. I would say Peaceweaver and Zen Spheres are... Peaceweaver is 100% every time. You could swap out Zen Spheres if you want to, but 15% extra healing and 10% extra damage to enemies is crucial. So I would actually probably not drop Zen Spheres, and then you're really just choosing between Eminence and Zen Focus T and Grapple Weapon. Sadly, all the others they could be removed, and you wouldn't even notice it. All right, now we get to talk about the rotation, and I've mentioned it a few times, but Mistweaver is all about modifiers. So I want to talk about all of Mistweaver modifiers, because that's pretty much, if you can get the modifiers down, you're like 90% done with the rotation. You just need to use the spells correctly. So let's just talk about the modifiers real quick. I'm going to go through all of them. That way you understand like where they come from and why they're so important. So I explained it before, but Renewing Mist, the first 8 seconds gives Chi Harmony. And this is, I don't know, I don't know if it must be bugged. It must be 12. You know what? This is a bug, because in the last patch, it was nerfed by 50%. So this is 12.5%, but the tooltip's being weird. This is a bug. Everyone should spam report this, by the way. So this is for sure a bug. Either way, this is either it's 12.5% or 15%. It doesn't matter. Make sure you put Renewing Mist up. This gives you 8 seconds of increased healing to the target. That's your first modifier. The next one is Enveloping Mist, and this is a 7-second hot right here. And for the full 7 seconds, the entire duration that Enveloping Mist is up, the target takes 40% healing from you, from everything. So this is, if there's any hot you want to get out, it's Enveloping Mist. This is like your most important hot. It's also an insane heal. And when you use it with Thunder Focus, it also has an initial heal, which can crit. So very, very important. So Enveloping Mist is 40%. Renewing Mist is whatever, 12%. Your next one is your Zen Spheres, which is 15%. Let me get in combat. So 15% here from Zen Spheres is just absurd. So you get 3 modifiers now. And then you also get a little baby one from your Enveloping Breath. So whenever you press Chi-Ji or Yulon, you get a hot. When you use Enveloping Mist on your target, you also put Enveloping Breath. And where is it? I don't know. Right here. So this is 10%. So this is an extra modifier when you get Enveloping Mist out when you have Chi-Ji up or Yulon. It's 10% increased healing. And I think that's it for modifiers as far as healing modifiers go. There's really nothing. Oh, sorry, Peaceful Mending. So this is a small thing, but it's very important. This is why your statue is very important. So allies targeted by Soothing Mist. And before I say anything, if you type in Soothing Mist, you're going to see a few spells that mention Soothing Mist. It changes depending on the spell. So Soothing Mist for certain things only counts as your Soothing Mist. So I'm channeling Soothing Mist right now. But there are other talents where Soothing Mist also includes your statue, because your statue also casts Soothing Mist. This spell, this counts as your statue. So if you or your statue is casting Soothing Mist, they receive 40% more healing from your Enveloping Mist and Renewing Mist effects. It's crazy. It's so good. So what I would recommend is just, as always, just make sure you get a statue down. That's like the most important thing. You don't really need to think about Peaceful Mending too much, but just make sure you get a statue down. But it is an extra modifier. So the hot healing from your Enveloping Mist and your Renewing Mist is increased by 40% when you have your statue healing you. So I could cancel my Soothing Mist, but because my statue is still channeling Soothing Mist, it still gets that 40% increased healing, which is nice. So as just an overview here, your modifiers are the first 8 seconds of Renewing Mist with Chi Harmony, your Enveloping, which is 15%, your Enveloping Mist, which is 40%, your Zen Spheres, which is 15%. So that's 15 plus 15, which is 30, plus 40, which is 70. So that's 70% more healing. And those modifiers are crucial. You need to have those modifiers rolling on your teammate as much as possible. A very common thing I see is, or a question I get is, Mysticall, my Shayloon's gift isn't doing much healing. Why does my Soothing Mist heal somebody for, 70% of the health bar, but mine only heals for like 30 or 40%? First question I always ask is, are you using it with modifiers, right? These modifiers are so important. So, even at 6 stacks, if you get a Renewing Mist, if you get like a Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping Mist, and then you get a Renewing Mist on somebody too, and it floats them, and you just go for a Shayloon's gift, that heal is going to be crazy. I mean, I don't know what this healed for. Let me see. Shayloon's gift right here. 10 million. 10.8 million Shayloon's gift. If you cut off 70%, if you get rid of your modifiers that are 70%, that's only doing 3 million. That's why it's so important. So just understand, I just want to make sure just modifiers are the bread and butter of Mistweaver. The next important thing outside of modifiers for Mistweaver, but specifically for hybrid, is understanding where your healing is coming from. So there is a passive that Mistweaver have called Ancient Teachings. And what this does is when you use your Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, and Crackle to do damage, 30% of the damage done is split evenly among them, among your teammates. This is this is your healing, by the way. This is where your healing comes from. Like, this is it. Your rushing wind kick does damage, but that damage gets converted to healing from Ancient Teachings. So that's why with your 2 set and your 4 set, when you use your Tiger Palm to do damage, you're doing a little bit of healing, and you're going to do a decent amount of AoE healing from your 4 set and your 2 set. But the most important thing is your rushing wind kick. All this damage is converted to healing, which is why you're trying to use your rushing wind kick as much as possible with your Thunder Focus Tea and empower it. Because outside of that, you're going to be casting your healing a lot, but you're not going to get much value out of your Ancient Teachings passive. So I just wanted to explain that before we got into the rotation, because I do get asked, like, hey, I'm doing damage, but why am I doing no healing? Or where is my healing coming from? And it's from your Ancient Teachings. Your healing breakdown will look something like your Vivify would be your number 1 heal, because you're using Vivify so often, and it's buffed when you use the Instant Vivify. And then your Envelop Mist will be up there too, probably number 2. And then number 3 would normally be your Ancient Teachings, just because of how much damage you're doing. And then that's why you're trying to kick as much as possible. Let's talk about rotation. You now understand where your modifiers come from and what they do, and your passive that converts your damage into healing. So now let's heal. So the most important thing, make sure you get your statue down at the start of a game. Make sure you get it poured up. Your modifier is the most important thing. Make sure that you put your Renewing Mist out as often as possible. Even without the Chi Harmony buff, the bonus healing from your statue is really important, just because the hot is strong in itself, and because you're playing haste, the tick rate is really good. So it's just going to heal for a lot. And then you're essentially just healing from range. Just by normal, you're just going to heal from range, get your Renewing Mist out, Soothing Mist to make your Envelop Mist and your Vivify instant, and all that. Use your Vivify if just a little spot healing, Envelop Mist for the hot as well. But let's just say you need to start healing. Also from range, you're going to play Crackle, because you're playing Jade Empowerment, so that makes it so whenever you use Thunder Focus Tea, your Crackle damage is increased. And remember, this damage does get converted to healing through your Ancient Teachings, so keep that in mind. You still do a decent amount of healing when you Crackle somebody. But let's just say you actually need to start healing, or you need to start doing damage. So Thunder Focus Tea is the bread and butter of both styles of Mistweaver. Being able to empower your spells is important in understanding those empowerments. So you get your Renewing Mist out to get the bonus healing. And then most of the time, I'm going to use a Thunder Focus Tea on that GCD, because this is off the GCD. So you can Renewing Mist into a Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping Mist right there. And then you're going to go for a kick right there. If you're able to, so if there's no interrupts available, I would highly recommend going for an Enveloping Mist without having to use your Thunder Focus Tea, just because you don't want to consume a charge of your Thunder Focus Tea. Obviously, you want to make sure that if you get the empowered Envelop Mist from Tea of Plenty, you can use it, because it's not going to consume a charge. But I would use a Mana Tea as well. So just weaving in this rotation, Renewing Mist, and if there's no kicks, I'll go for like Envelop Mist, and then I'll Thunder Focus Tea. And if I see an Envelop Mist here, I'll go for a quick Mana Tea into an Envelop Mist, because I get the Mana Tea buff for the 30% mana reduction into that instant Envelop Mist, and then I'll kick. Right, so now the empowered kick reduces the cooldown on my rushing wind kick by 9 seconds, and then I'll Vivify, and then I'll kick again, and then I'll Vivify. So pretty good. With the new rework to Vivacious, it's kind of awkward, because if you want to instant Vivify or maximize how many instant Vivifies you have, you kind of need to consume a Thunder Focus Tea charge if you don't get an empowered one, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. So I just want to go through it again, just because practice. Just make sure you're practicing as much as you can. Make sure you get your Zen Sphere out. You get an initial heal plus 15% healing. Start channeling your Soothing Mist. And then from here, you're pretty much just playing from range. Like, you could easily just, Vivify, Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, and then you need to do some kind of damage or healing. Thunder Focus Tea, because I got my Vitality up. I would Mana Tea, Instant Enveloping Mist if I don't have one, into a kick, into a Tiger Palm, because we're going to have the 4-set bonus or a proc, and then just keep weaving in. Essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to weave your rushing wind kicks with Vivify, and then throw in a Tiger Palm when you get your harmonic, what's it called? Is a harmonic surge is what it is. So that's your priority. I'll put it on screen, but your modifiers are your most important priority, with your Renewing Mist, your Enveloping Mist, and your Zen Spheres. And then from there, it's just kind of just using whatever it gets empowered, essentially. Obviously you want to be doing damage at the same time. So Tiger Palm, whenever you get the Harmonic Surge, Thunder Focus Tea, I get, oh my, this is so many kicks. This is right here the jackpot for Mistweavers. If you could get 2 empowered kicks plus 2 charges of Thunder Focus Tea, you just won the lottery. So you can kick, and then you could go for an Instant Vivify if you need it. It's a little unfortunate, but then you can kick again into an Instant Vivify, and then kick again into an Instant Vivify, and then kick again into an Instant Vivify. That right there, if you can get at least 1 empowered kick from your Thunder Focus Tea, it's money right there. Obviously, if you get an Expel Harm buff, just use it because you get the Chi Cocoon, and then use your Tiger Palm whenever you get the Harmonic Surge, because 1, it's extra damage, and damage is damage, baby. We'll take that. Whether it's shuffle, 2s, don't matter. Give me some damage. And then also it's AoE healing, which has been one of, I feel like, the biggest weaknesses of Fistweaver and Hybrid in general, but so good. It's so good with the tier set, especially when you Thunder Focus Tea. One cooldown I want to rotate outside of the cooldown section is your Chi-Ji. So Chi-Ji, as I mentioned in the talent section, what this does is you summon Chi-Ji, and all of your physical damage, your Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, and Spinning Crane Kick, they give you a stack of Chi-Ji, and at 3 stacks, your Envelopment Mist is instant. So your rotation doesn't change too much, just because you're already like pushing in to do damage, especially using your Tiger Palms. Because before this patch, you weren't really using Tiger Palms. You were pretty much just using your Rushing Wind Kicks, but with the 4 set and 2 set, you want to use your Tiger Palms. So it's essentially the same thing. It really is pretty much the same thing. I would recommend using a Thunder Focus Tea Enveloping Mist during Chi-Ji, just because you don't want to waste a global, or worst case, you get kicked during Chi-Ji is brutal. So what I tend to do is, I'll show you, I get my Renewing Mist out and my Sphere of Hope out, but what I'll do is I'll Chi-Ji, Thunder Focus Tea on the global, and then Enveloping Mist, and then I'll kick for the extra damage, and then go for a Blackout Kick for an Instant Envelopment Mist. You can even Tiger Palm, and then, but Rushing Wind Kick is like the bread and butter. Instant Vivify, and then Blackout Kick again, and then you get Instant Envelopment Mist. So you can get anywhere between 2 and 4, I think, Instant Envelopment Mist, depending on the situation. But with the new tier set, you can be Tiger Palming a little bit more. You also can just Tiger Palm pets as well, so just keep that in mind. But I would recommend, just Tiger Palming a little bit more, just because you get the tier set bonus, and then it also gives you a charge of your Chi-Ji from the Blackout Kick. So keep that in mind. Just go for Instant Enveloping Mist. Obviously, whenever you Rushing Wind Kick, you get an Instant Vivify, so use that. But that is pretty much it for the hybrid rotation. Just the biggest thing for me as far as tips go for playing hybrid, 1, it's the mentality of being a little bit closer to the fight, because your Rushing Wind Kick is a 25-yard cone in front of you. So you have to be decently close to people to do damage to get the healing bonus from it. So that for me was a mental shift a little bit. I always struggled with Fistweaver and Dragonflight just because of that. But you're the aggressor in the matchups, for sure. You're the aggressor. And then also make sure you're tracking the aspect of Harmony. That way you know who you're doing more damage to, and more healing on your party frames is really important, because this, all damage is good damage. The more damage you do, the more healing you do. So just keep that in mind. And then playstyle wise, just play from range when you have to, go for kicks when you have damage, and then weave in those Instant Vivifies after you kick, and you're going to be doing fantastic. Make sure you Mana Tea, because hybrid struggles more with mana than Crackle, because Crackle costs no mana, but Rushing Wind Kick does, and pretty much everything else does. So make sure you're Mana Teeing before you use Enveloping Mist, which is very, very important. So that is it for the hybrid section. If you want to learn about Crackle, I'm going to talk about Crackle. If not, I'm going to have more sections at the end as far as best comps, macros, and tips and tricks. All right, it might be easier to show a hybrid game. So this is a hybrid solo shuffle, and again, hybrid, I would say 99% of the time is this way you're gonna be playing. However, if you're looking to min-max, this is actually a really good time to play hybrid, because this is an Unholy Decay, and like I mentioned, the more enemies that you hit, the more healing you do. So try your best to, if you're not comfortable with hybrid, I would play it into Unholy Decays, BM Hunters, and Demo Warlock. So this is going to showcase the Instant Vivify rework, by the way. That is so good for hybrid. We get a nice grip on the Shadow Priest there, but it really doesn't matter who you hit when you kick. It really doesn't matter, as long as you're hitting somebody, or as many targets as you can. So I go for an in-cap here, trying to set up some CC. I get a Rushing Wind Kick there, which gives me a Vivify buff. So every time I kick, I get an instant Vivify, which is fantastic. I disarm the DK there, and you can see it doesn't really matter who I kick. You know, as long as I'm hitting somebody, ideally you're hitting the same target because you get that extra damage. That kind of, it overwhelms people. But this is a weak aura right here, tracking my Vivacious, the new Vivacious right here. So I just kicked down here, and I go for an instant Vivify off of that into another kick. And this is Chi-Ji as well, so I hope I try to get an instant Enveloping Mist. I don't think I actually get the chance to. I think if I used one Blackout kick there, I could have gotten an instant Enveloping Mist. And then I see a go on the from the DK, and I go for a leg sweep. So really good instant Vivify out of the sphere. The buff lasts 20 seconds, which is really nice. But I do revival any of the Unholy DK damage, and I'm just trying to do as much healing and damage as I can. I rush and wind kick there, and I get an instant Vivify. It's much more fluid. As much as I hate the rework for Crackle Mistweaver, it's actually a really, really good change for hybrid. I mean, the amount of instant healing you have between Vivacious buff and our 2-set and 4-set is amazing. So I do have an instant Vivify. I do have a kick there as well. Still trying to get used to the rework as well. But I do get the instant Vivify. I had to make sure I try to ping the DK because I feel like the DK could be a kill target. That's Ray of Hope and Disperse from the Shadow Priest. So we're getting a bunch of cooldowns here. And then I get an incap on the Priest because they're off DR. And then I try to go for a Panda, which, you know me, I mean, a Panda's the way right there. But yeah, we're just trying to do as much damage as we can. They're not doing too much damage right now, but I still go for an instant Vivify into a kick, into an instant Vivify, and we get a kill on the Shadow Priest. So you could see how much more fluid it is to play hybrid with the new Vivacious change. Every kick is an instant Vivify. You're just weaving it in. Another good, you know, this is good. DKs and Shadow Priests are pretty tanky, and I just go for kicks. I try to go for an early Chi-Ji before CC, but this is a mistake. You should always Chi-Ji after CC because you can see I'm literally CC'd the entire duration. I do use Peaceweaver there. Again, this is a good example of Peaceweaver being so good and so powerful. So sadly, I wasted my Chi-Ji before CC. I was just trying to get those Chi Cocoons out, but you could see I'm stunned by the DK, and I use Revival here. And Revival immunes Warlock damage, and then Frost DKs also have magic damage, so it immunes Frost DK damage, but also it's going to immune Silence from the DK. So you can see if this wants to play. Let's see. We go back. I'm not going to pause it just because I don't want to freeze again, but you could see I Peaceweaver, I immune any damage, and then he tries to silence, boom, immuned. Because I used Peaceweaver and I used Revival and I had the Peaceweaver buff. It's fantastic. So Life Cocoon there as well on my Priest. I don't know what happened. By the way, I don't know what happened to my Life Cocoon there. I actually thought he was fine. I legitimately thought this Priest was fine. I used Life Cocoon, and then it just gets destroyed. I thought he was gonna be fine. I was focusing on damage. He gets absolutely crushed. So I don't know what happened there. He got hit for a lot, pretty much. He got hit for a lot, which is crazy. Chi-Ji here, gonna go for damage, instant Vivify, beautiful, so good. And then I think I sweep this guy back here. Yeah, we just sweep him back here, and then somehow the Shadow Priest dies. So the Holy DK, obviously preseason, everything's dying. So you know, take the damage with a grain of salt. But I think the Shadow Priest gets absolutely crushed. I incap the Priest, and then he just dies. The Shadow Priest just gets wrecked. But you could see every kick results in an instant Vivify. I use an instant Vivify right there. The instant healing that hybrid has this patch is amazing. This is all my add-ons there. And once again, on Holy DKs, if you don't want to get spam CC'd or you're trying to avoid damage, just hitting the DK is so good. You could see I'm doing so much damage here with Chi-Ji hitting into pets. I got instant Vivifies. I tried to Dispel Coil. I get kicked. Life Cocoon on the Priest. Incap the Holy Priest. Instant Vivify helps my DK there. Sweep the Priest off that incap into a Panda so he can't GS. And you could just see how strong these instant Vivifies are. I'm trying to keep my modifiers up as much as I can and get my Renewing Mist out. Always try to Renewing Mist before you kick. That way you get the extra healing bonus from your modifiers. And I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can. I'm actually terrified of Destro Warlocks. I think Destro Warlock damage is kind of crazy. I think Demo Warlock just got nerfed, but I swear Destro is so good. And we hit the lottery here with all of these kicks, by the way. So we have like 4 kicks in a row with instant Vivifies. Insane. Absolutely insane. So you could see very similar to the rotation section. All I'm trying to do is keep my modifiers up on my teammates as much as I can and then do damage. That's all I'm trying to do. Great disperse there from my Shadow Priest. Really, really good. And I'm just trying to heal. I do have Chi-Ji up, so I'm trying to kick. I'm trying to do a little damage so I can get an instant Vivify or an instant Enveloping Mist. and just kick whoever I can. Big healing here. I do have a Shaylun's Gift, but it's 5 stacks. Rop here, do damage. I'm also trying to weave in Crackles as well, because Crackle still does healing. Even though it's not the most, I get an Instant Vivify there, which is a ton of healing. Incap Priest full. Off DR, of course. Dispel Fear, I get Life Cocoon back. And then, obviously, with the 2 set and 4 set, you're going to try to Tiger Palm whenever you can, just because, you know, that AoE healing is so good. But I think we might actually die here. Maybe not. I get stunned. Trying to see if I Instant Vivify there. Coil's going out. We might die here. Swap onto me. Oh, yeah. I think I get bolted on that swap. Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal. Yeah. Very unfortunate swap there. But we do go the Warlock here, and I think we just run them down. Great double sweep here into an Incap on the Priest. This is, if you can get one of these goes, it's so good. Double whenever you can leg sweep more than one person, it is fantastic. And PI on the Desher Warlock here. And I think we're just gonna run down the Warlock straight up. I feel like I have enough instant healing where, you know, I can avoid getting interrupted often. Devouring Plague on me, which means the Priest is trying to hit me, so I Fort Brew, which is one of the first cooldowns you want to rotate. Especially, I don't know if the Warlock has Infernals, but if you're gonna get stunned, it's really good. And then, you know, if I can get an Incap on the Holy Priest right now, it'd actually be insane too. Maybe Desperate Prayer from the Priest, swap from one of the Priests. I think I can get an Incap kind of soon. Oh yeah. I'm trying to ping right now. If I can get a ping right now into an Incap, it's Ray. I think the Ray of Hope is gonna be negative here, but it's actually not. I'm actually shocked that this Ray of Hope survived. I touch a death into that and everything. Expel Harm here is really good. I also do a Shaylun's Gift, which is fantastic. Sweep here, double sweep into a kill. So you can see the difference between Crackle and Hybrid is, for Hybrid, you're just trying to do damage, right? Keep your modifiers out, get your Renewing Mist out on everybody, do your damage after you get your modifiers out, and you just spam damage as much as you can. If you could hit more than one person, that's so good. And yeah, we have double DK here. So obviously this is really good because you have two enemies that are stacked, and then you also have pets. So you're going to be getting the full value out of your rushing wind kick damage and healing. Keep that Sphere of Hope up on my Shadow Priest. Always try to make, or on my Warlock, always try to keep those modifiers out. I get a Renewing Mist out, get gripped by the DK, and then I'm able to Life Cocoon my Warlock before any CC on me. And I think from here, I'm trying to ring a piece, but you see how the horses, like, they just horse and they run right through it. So it's a little unfortunate. And then I get a touch of death on the DK trying to run away. So I like Hybrid a lot because it feels like you're actually contributing to a kill rather than just healing. You know, you're able to do damage. You're able to help set up stuns and damage and healing. But you see the DK just, look at that, boop, little touch of death there, and he dies. So that is the Hybrid rotation. That is a shuffle on Hybrid. We get, what, the 4-2 on this one, which is really nice. And yeah, if you have any questions at all, let me know. I know it can be it's a more of a mindset shift when you're going from like a normal healer that you play 40 yards away to doing essentially melee damage. But you could see I'm still casting, you know, I'm casting Vivifies, I'm casting my Enveloping Mist, but you don't have to do it a lot of the time, because if you're using your Thunder Focus Tea for instant Enveloping Mist, and then to kick, you get instant Vivifies, right? So instant Vivifies, instant Enveloping Mist, and your kicks are all instant. You really have minimal amount of healing. And then you also, on top of that, have your Shaylun's Gift, which is also instant. You just have so much instant healing. It's really, really nice. All right, so when should you play Crackle over Hybrid? And sadly, in previous patches, I would say there were a few opportunities where you'd play Crackle, but I don't think that's the case in season 3 of the War Within. With the recent changes to Vivacious, it's kind of brutal. You now have to cast essentially everything, which is really, really bad, especially in a meta that has high damage and a lot of micro CC. It's going to be a little brutal. So the one opportunity where I would play Crackle would be versus Acid Rogues. I actually think Acid Rogues counter Hybrid heavily. Spam Garrotes, multiple stuns, gouges, you know, just micro CC is really, really annoying. But I think Crackle actually can shine into comps like Acid Rogue Affy or anything like that, or Acid Rogue Boomy. Those are the 2 times where I will play Crackle most of the time, just because I think it's super important. Outside of that, there isn't much room for Crackle. It doesn't do enough it doesn't do nearly as much damage as Hybrid, and Hybrid does just as much healing as it. So the only weakness of Hybrid is the fact that you need to be closer to the fight. So spambo CC is a little bit rough on you. As far as stats go, you're going to want to play Haste Verse. And I do get asked quite often why haste is so much better than mastery. It was just due to a few nerfs going into season 2. They nerfed Resplendent Mist, and then they also nerfed mastery overall by like 10%. And then they also, these 2-point talents are really brutal. So if you wanted to play Resplendent Mist, you'd either have to drop like Rising Mist and Tea of Plenty to get it, and you're just giving up too much to get extra mastery healing. However, also haste affects your hot tick rate. So Enveloping Mist was buffed, and I think Renewing Mist was buffed as well. So our hots got buffed and our direct healing got nerfed, which just makes haste so good. As far as tier set goes for Crackle, I actually don't think you really want to play 4 set. So the 2 set and 4 set for Master of Harmony is the exact opposite of what you want for Crackle Mistweaver. So you're either going to be playing Conduit of the Celestials or just not playing tier set with Master of Harmony. So pick one. You can either play 2 set with Conduit or no set with Master of Harmony. Those are your options. I like the 2 set for Conduit of the Celestials. So what it does is Heart of the Jade Serpent additionally triggers for 8 seconds at 100% effectiveness. I don't know if this is actually nerfed in PvP. They actually didn't nerf it. No one report this, please. God, please don't nerf this. Please. So Heart of the Jade Serpent additionally triggers at 8 seconds at 100% effectiveness after you cast Thunder Focus Tea, which is incredible. So Heart of the Jade Serpent is one of your hero talents, and what it does is Shaylun's Gift calls upon Yulon to increase the recovery rate of your Renewing Mist, Rising Sun Kick, Life Cocoon, and Thunder Focus Tea by 75% for up to 8 seconds based on clouds consumed, which is so good. So if I use my Life Cocoon right now, and then I press, so it's on a cooldown, if I use my Shaylun's Gift, and then I Thunder Focus Tea, it's going to give me a cooldown reduction. You can see the cooldown from my Shaylun's Gift. It gives me a buff, and it just reduces it, which is fantastic. So really, really good. I think this made me have it's close to like a 45-second Life Cocoon, which is exactly what Caster Mistweaver needs, or Crackle Mistweaver needs. So I would say go for the 2 set if you're going to play Crackle. I would get it on my... whichever one has, I would get it on the legs because it has high haste, and I would get it on the shoulders because it has high haste. If you want a little bit more verse, you could also go for the helm. You can go helm, legs, or shoulders and legs. I would definitely recommend legs, but then if you want verse, go helm. If you want more haste, go shoulders. And then as far as gearing goes, I think you're a little bit more flexible on Crackle Mistweaver just because you're playing 40 yards away. You know, whole teams don't tend to hit you. So I would still go haste verse, and I would still go for the 2 set, and then I would just go for conquest gear except for the rings in the neck. The rings in the neck I would craft with haste verse as well, and I would also put energy redistribution beacon on them just for the extra healing. You could also get the dust thread lining for the extra verse above 80% health, which is really nice, just because stats might be out of whack this season. It's kind of crazy. The season 3, it might be super easy to get 30% verse, and your goal is to get to about 30% verse, and then you can just craft everything else after that. You should be fine. You shouldn't need any more than 30%. Next up are Crackle Talents, and there really isn't much that changes on the monk tree for Crackle from Hybrid. You're still playing the damage talents fast sweep. This helps with killing totems, but also helps you get to ancient teachings or ancient arts, which gets you to reduce the cooldown paralysis by 15 seconds and the cooldown leg sweep by 10 seconds, which is really good. The same thing as Hybrid. I still like Song of Chi-Ji when I'm playing Crackle just because it gives you extra CC, it gives your team an extra win condition, and most classes and specs have a way to get through Ring of Peace. It's just super unfortunate because I think Ring of Peace is so good, and it still has a lot of uses, but if you're newer to Mistweaver, I would play Ring of Peace, use it to prevent people from going behind the pillar during your team's goes, but if you want an extra win condition, you want a little extra CC, I think Song of Chi-Ji and then Peace and Prosperity, reducing the cast time of it, it's just a really good combo. Incap into Song, sweep into Song. Very, very strong. You have Diffuse Magic, which reduces magic damage you take by 60% for 6 seconds. And then reverses anything magic on you back to the original caster. You could use this for Warlock dots, Shadow Priest dots. I use it for roots on Druids too. If it happens. And then you also have Fort Brew here. Down here, most people probably shouldn't play Clash because it's not actually ideal. But you would play Strength of Spirit for Expel Harm, Healing Winds for the extra heal on your transfer. And then you have 2 more for really wherever you want. Flow of Chi is really good because you get a bonus based on your health, which is really nice. And then the last one you can kind of put anywhere. You can get the extra travel distance with Roll. You can do Elusive Mist so that whenever you're channeling Soothing Mist, you get a little damage reduction. This actually might be the better option just because you're channeling Soothing Mist a lot more now. So Elusive Mist might be the best option here. So this is probably the build you're going to be running. I'll have the link to all these in the description as well. But that's the Monk side. As far as the Mistweaver side of the tree, I'm going to try to highlight some important things. So obviously Thunder Focus Tea is really important for caster Mistweaver because essentially what I use this for is Enveloping Mist to make it instant so that you don't have to cast that much. And then also for Vivify because it makes it so Vivify costs no mana, which is really important. Mana is always important to keep in mind. Mana Tea. So for every 250,000 mana you spend, you get 1 stack of Mana Tea. And then with crit, you can get a little bit more. But since you're not using the full 4 set, you don't need to worry about that too much. And then whenever you consume a stack of Mana Tea, you get mana. And it reduces the mana cost of your spells by 30% for each stack that you consumed. So if you consumed 5 stacks of Mana Tea, you get 5 seconds of 30% reduction on your spells, which is really powerful. Life Cocoon is your major cooldown. I'll talk about this more in the cooldown section. Revival and Restoral. So this is just good. This is another major cooldown that I'll talk about later. Rapid Diffusion. So whenever you use Rising Sun Kick or Enveloping Mist, which is really important, you apply Renewing Mist for 6 seconds. And this works really well with Chi Harmony, which makes it so the first 8 seconds of Renewing Mist, the target takes extra healing. In PvP, it's 15. It's 12.5 or 15%. I don't know which, but it's still reduced a little bit in PvP, but still good. Still bonus healing. And then you have Yulon. This is your major healing spell. This is another one that I tend to use very quickly in games. So this is going to give you Invoke Yulon, but more importantly, it makes it so Envelop Mist costs 50% less mana when Yulon's active. And then I also pair this with Jade Bond. So Jade Bond makes it so Chi Cocoons now apply Envelop Mist for 4 seconds when they expire or consumed. And then you get extra Master Healing, and then Yulon Soothing Breath healing is really nice. So whenever you use your Yulon, let me see. Let me just apply this real quick. And then Yulon, you should get a Chi Cocoon right here. And then once this expires, I should get Enveloping Mist. So Chi Cocoon should expire. And then I should get Enveloping Mist right here, which is, it's free. This is, Enveloping Mist costs so much mana. This is free. And this is for all of your teammates, by the way, as well. So if you have the Chi Cocoons on 3 teammates, you get free Enveloping Mist, which is, it's so nice. It saves so much mana. And then the bread and butter of the build, of course. So you're not doing damage to heal, or you're not using Russian Wind Kick to heal. You're using Crackle to heal. So Jade Empowerment makes it so Thunder Focus Tea increases your next Crackling Jade Lightning by, I think it's 1,250% PvP. Yeah, 1,250%. And it causes, and then it chains to people for a small amount. And then Jade Fire Teachings makes it so after casting Jade Fire Stomp or Thunder Focus Tea, you get Ancient Teachings transfer an additional 160% more damage to healing. So what that means is Mistweavers have we have a passive called Ancient Teachings that causes your Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, and Crackle to convert the damage to healing. So that baseline, it converts 30% of the damage you do to healing. And what this talent does is it buffs it by 160% in PvP whenever you use Thunder Focus Tea. So if I use Thunder Focus Tea, I'm going to get the buff right here. So now Ancient Teachings transfers 215% more damage to healing. So when I Crackle, it does a ton of healing. Essentially, what you're trying to do is every Thunder Focus Tea, you're going to try to Crackle. Every Thunder Focus Tea, you're going to get this buff, and then you're going to Crackle to heal your teammates, which is super powerful. And then that is we have Shayloon's Gift here, which is just a really good instant heal. You get a stack every 4 seconds, and then it's instant with Emperor's Favor, which is really nice. And then Tea of Serenity. So Thunder Focus Tea empowers 2 random Renewing Mist, Envelop Mist, or Vivifies. So really powerful. Thunder Focus Tea already empowers 2 spells of your choice with Focus Thunder. And then this is 2 random ones. So if I use Thunder Focus Tea, I get 2 empowered Renewing Mist here, which increases their duration to 40 seconds, which is crazy. And then also 2 empowered spells that I get to choose. So those are the Monk and Mistweaver talents that are, pretty powerful. As far as the hero talents go, Master of Harmony is recommended a lot of the time, but with the new tier set, I would actually recommend playing Conduit of the Celestials. Again, the difference is you could either play 2 set and play Conduit of the Celestials, because the 2 set for Master of Harmony is not good for Caster Mistweaver at all. So I would play Conduit of the Celestials because you want the Life Cocoon cooldown reduction, or you could play no tier set and play Master of Harmony. It doesn't really impact the way that you heal at all. It just has different things. So Conduit of the Celestials, the main part of Condo of the Celestials is Heart of the Jade Serpent. That makes it so Thunder Focus Tea with the 2-set and Shaylun's Gift calls upon Yulon to increase the cooldown recovery rate of your Renewing Mist, Rising Sun Kick, and Life Cocoon, and Thunder Focus Tea by 75% for up to 8 seconds. So really, really powerful. You want to, the main part of this build is you want to use your Life Cocoon first, quickly, because you're going to use Life Cocoon, and then from there, you're going to have Thunder Focus Tea reducing the cooldown on it from your 2-set, and then you're also going to have your Shaylun's Gift reducing the cooldown on your Life Cocoon. So very, very important to just get those cooldowns out. And then you also have Celestial Conduit. So this gives you another cooldown, which is, I think it's a really good, it does a lot of healing. Like this does so much healing. What it does is the Celestials empower you, and then you heal for a lot. It gets split among your teammates. And then it also does some damage. But the other important thing is the unity within. So when you use your Celestial Conduit, when it cancels, you could choose to cancel it, or whenever it ends, it'll also trigger all of your Celestials. So you have Zhuen here that gives you a chance for Zhuen to do damage. You have Shrink the Black Ox, which makes it so after Zhuen procs, you get like you can put a shield on people through your Enveloping Mist. You have Yulon, which gives you the cooldown reduction, and then Chi-Ji, she just gives you a movement speed buff. It's not that strong in PvP, but it's still decent. So when you use your Celestial Conduit, you proc all of those at the same time. So if you have a Life Cocoon, right, you could see the cooldown reduction. We don't have tier set yet, but if you use your Life Cocoon, right, you always want to use Life Cocoon first, because you always want to make sure you get the cooldown reduction on your Heart of the Jade Serpent. And then you use your Shaylun's Gift, you get the buff right here, so you can see my cooldown. And then use your Conduit, and then you press it again instantly. You get it again. You get the buff from Yulon again. So you could just see the cooldown on this getting reduced. And then when you have 2-set, you also have Thunder Focus Tea. So if you're trying to min-max, which you absolutely should with this build, you always want to use Life Cocoon first, and then your Thunder Focus Tea. That way you're getting the cooldown reduction on your Thunder Focus Tea and your Life Cocoon. And then you want a Shaylun, because Shaylun will give you Yulon, which will reduce the cooldown on your Thunder Focus Tea and Life Cocoon. And then after all that, you want to use your Conduit, because that'll reduce the cooldown on your Thunder Focus Tea and Life Cocoon again. So on PTR, I was getting 45-second cooldown Life Cocoons, essentially. So that's why this hero talent is so important. For Crackle Mistweaver, you get that major cooldown back so quickly, which is really, really important. All right, next up is PvP Talents for Crackle. It's very similar to Hybrid. Peace Weaver 100% of the time. You can immune CC, you can immune damage, even into full melee teams. It's just so powerful. Having a 16% cooldown reduction. I mean, it's not the most, but with the buffs to Revival, you want to get it as fast as possible. The next talent, it kind of depends on what you're queuing with. If you're playing with 2 melee, I would actually recommend Zen Focus Tea, because you're casting everything now. After the Vivacious change, Caster Mistweaver, 1, it feels awkward, but 2, you have to come to the realization that you're casting essentially everything, which is rough. So you do need Zen Focus Tea, which is very unfortunate. So this is going to give you immunity to interrupts and silence effects for 5 seconds after you press Thunder Focus Tea. So you have a lot of things tied to your Thunder Focus Tea, which is good and bad. It makes a really strong cooldown, but it also, if you get shut down on it, you kind of lose out on a lot, which is kind of brutal. But this is really important, because then you can Thunder Focus Tea, and now you can Crackle without being worried about interrupted, right? Because you have Zen Focus Tea, which is really, really good. So those are the 2 I would pair, and then this third one comes down to what you're queuing into. Right, if you're playing with 2 melee, by the way, you need to play Zen Focus Tea, because you're the only interrupt available for people to kick. So Eminence makes it so you can port while stunned. This is really important, just because teams can kind of target you. I would use it into setup comps like Jungle, which is Feral Hunter, because they rely on stuns. Cupid, which is Ret Hunter, because they rely on Hodge into trap. And then RMP, because they rely on cheap shots or kidney shots into polys, or they try to swap to you a lot of the time. Zen Focus Tea, we already talked about. Grapple Weapon, really good into warriors and rogues. This is a range disarm, 20-yard cooldown, or 20-yard range, 45-second cooldown. I would still use it. Try to get close enough to interrupt. Very, very powerful. And then, of course, Zen Spheres. So Zen Spheres gives you a Sphere of Hope and a Sphere of Despair, depending on who you're using it on. If you use it on an enemy, and I think I need to be in combat again. If you want to use it on an enemy, it gives them 3% damage reduction, and then also increases the damage they take by 10%. So this is really, really good. And then when you use on a teammate, it's 15% extra healing. And modifiers are very important for Mistweavers, as I will explain in the cooldown section. in the rotation section. So I would say baseline, these are the PvP talents I would choose right here. Mistweaver, Zen Focus Tea, Zen Spheres. If I was queuing into a team that doesn't have ranged interrupts, I would drop Zen Focus Tea and maybe run, it's probably going to be a TSG, right? Ret Warrior DK, stuff like that. I play Grapple Weapon. And then if I'm playing to a setup comp, I would probably play something like this. You can even drop this and go here, but it depends. You do need a Zen Focus Tea if you're playing into anything with range interrupts like Mage Lock. Definitely Zen Focus Tea, but Mage Lock doesn't have a lot of stun, so you play Zen Spheres. So it just depends on what you're queuing into and what comp you're playing with. But this is the baseline PvP talents I would play in nearly every single matchup. All right, now that we have all the talents we need, let's just talk about modifiers, because very similar to Hybrid, Mistweaver in general lives and dies by our modifiers. So I'm going to explain them and hopefully fix any issues you might have with your healing rotation or if you're struggling with healing. So first of all, Renewing Mist, Chi Harmony is the talent that makes it so the first 8 seconds gives you a healing bonus to whoever has it. So this is really important. It should have an extra, a different thing, a different icon. If I put a Renewing Mist out right here. And then also what's really important is through Rapid Diffusion, if I use Enveloping Mist, someone's going to get it. So you can see my Renewing Mist traveled. This target tummy would have the Chi Harmony buff from that Enveloping Mist. So that's really, really good. You also have Enveloping Mist. So Enveloping Mist makes it so for the full 7 seconds that's up, the target takes 40% increased healing from you, which is just vital. And then you also have the Zen Spheres here. So Sphere of Hope, 15% extra healing from you. So 15% extra healing from your Zen Spheres, 15% from your Chi Harmony, and then 40% from your Enveloping Mist. That's 70% extra healing. And that's what you want to make sure you need to make sure you get those out before you start healing, especially before you crackle. Very, very important. Obviously, the bread and butter of this build is the final modifier, which is the Jadefire Teachings and your Crackle. So this, you want to make sure before you crackle, you have the Jadefire Teachings buff or the Ancient Teachings buff. Jadefire Teachings, right? This is going to convert 215% more of your damage to healing. Obviously, with Crackle, that's what you're going to be using. That's where all of your healing comes from. So make sure you get those modifiers out, then you Thunder Focus Tea, and then you start healing with Crackle, and you're going to be fantastic. And then obviously the last modifier comes from you Yulon, which you Yulon, and then you Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping Mist, and then you get a Celestial Breath here. I can't click on it for some reason. But that's 10% extra healing right here. You get 10% extra healing from the Monk, which is really, really important. And then Yulon also lasts longer because I'm playing Jade Bond. So Yulon lasts, what is it, 25 seconds? Yeah, 25 seconds with Yulon, which is really good. But more importantly, that's also 25 seconds of 50% mana reduction on your Enveloping Mist. So usually Crackle, you don't really need to worry about mana. It's one of the pros. It's one of the main things about Crackle that I would play is for mana, just because Crackle costs no mana. Yulon lasts 25 seconds and you get 50% mana reduction on your Enveloping Mist. And then you also have Mana Tea on top of that. And one note is Mana Tea and Yulon mana reduction, they do stack. So if you have Yulon up for 50% extra mana reduction on Enveloping Mist, and then you also have 30% from Mana Tea, that's actually 80% total mana reduction on an Enveloping Mist. As long as you get the modifiers down, the rotation isn't too terrible. Of course, make sure you get your Renewing Mist out, or make sure you get your statue out. And from here, you're playing 40 yards away. And your home, by the way, is the pillar. This is your home. Don't leave it if you don't have to. You can push in for an in cap if you want, but you better get out of there as fast as you can. All right, go for an in cap and then you're back on the pillar. So really important, get your statue down. From here, I would normally put a Zen Sphere out on an enemy. And then obviously when the gates open, you can get a Sphere of Hope out. So I would get a Sphere of Hope out on your teammate. Boom. You get your Renewing Mist out on as many people as you can. I always have your 2 charges of Renewing Mist rolling at all times. You always want to have this recharging at least once. But if you need to start healing, make sure you get your Renewing. You only have 1 charge of Thunder Focus Tea. So I tend to pair it with Enveloping Mist because you do need to channel Soothing Mist to make that Enveloping Mist instant. So I tend to use my Thunder Focus Tea with Enveloping Mist a lot of the time, but it also depends on what I empower. So essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your Renewing Mist out. I tend to Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping Mist. This is good. This is 2 Enveloping Mist. I would use my Mana Tea right now to get the mana reduction and then Enveloping Mist. And then from here, you're going to Crackle. That's it. as long as you have the buff, which I track with a weak aura, and then you can go for an Envelop Mist again if you wanted to. But that's pretty much, I mean, that's essentially the rotation. You're going to get your modifiers out, very important. Your Renewing Mist, your Sphere of Hope, and then your Enveloping Mist, Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping Mist into a Crackle. Because you're going to have Zen Focus Tea too, so you can't get interrupted. And that's literally the rotation. From there, you're just going to weave in your Vivifies. Sadly, the Vivacious change. I would say try to go in for a Rising Sun Kick, but let's be real. You ain't getting, you are not getting Rising Sun Kick. You're not going to be getting Rising Sun Kicks playing Crackle. A lot of the times, now if teams are, playing on top of you and you want to go in for a Rising Sun Kick, that's fantastic, but it's not going to happen a lot of the time. It's just not. You also have your Shailun's Gift at, I would say 8 or more stacks. I would go for sure. I would go for 8 or more stacks of Shailun's Gift, just because with your modifiers, it shouldn't be that big a deal. It really shouldn't be that big a deal to have a big Shailun's Gift. Make sure you get your Renewing Mist, Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping Mist, Crackle, and then let's just say they're still struggling or that wasn't enough healing. Boom, Shailun's Gift, because they already have all your modifiers. It's going to do a ton of healing. To weave in the Yulon, because Thunder Focus Tea, you're mostly using it for the instant Enveloping Mist. Mana, Vivify costing no mana, it really isn't that big a deal because you don't run into mana issues. But the final part of the rotation is to weave in your Yulon. And Yulon, the biggest thing about Yulon is, one, it gives you 50% mana reduction on your spells, and then also makes it so you have that extra hot when you Envelop Mist. So I just want to show you something. Envelop Mist now costs 52,000 mana. It was 104,000. And if I Mana Tea on top of that, my Envelop Mist now costs 36,000 mana. So I always Mana Tea, Yulon, Thunder Focus Tea, Envelop Mist, throw out a Renewing Mist, and then Crackle. Boom. That is the most amount of healing you could possibly have. With somebody with the Sphere of Hope, your Renewing Mist, your Envelop Mist, and the Enveloping Breath Hot from Yulon, use that into a Thunder Focus Tea, Envelop Mist, into a Crackle. It's the most amount of healing you could possibly do. It is an insane amount of healing. So that's what I would do. And then follow that up with a Shailun's Gift. If you have like a few stacks and you have all your modifiers out, you're going to be doing just fine. But that's the healing cooldown. That's your rotation. This one is a little bit more, I would say a little bit more simpler than the hybrid one. The only thing about Caster Mistweaver that is the real struggle is that you have to cast everything. Essentially, you do a lot of casting, so you need to fake quite a bit. I have a macro section in this video, and I would say you're mostly going to be trying to fake, get precogs, get your Renewing Mist out, Thunder Focus Tea, Enveloping Mist, get your Sphere of Hope out, and then go for a Crackle. Boom. And then as far as any other cooldowns go, you do have the Celestial Conduit, which is also affected. The healing from this is also affected by your modifiers. So just keep that in mind. Really, really good. If you get your Envelop Mist out, and let's just say your Crackle somehow wasn't enough, it's late dampening, Conduit healing also is affected by those modifiers. So use it if you need it, if Life Cocoon's on cooldown. And I'll explain in the cooldown section the rotation of cooldowns you should have depending on your hero talent selected. But yeah, that's it for the Crackle rotation. It's fairly straightforward as long as you just get the modifiers out and you get your healing out. It's just Thunder Focus Tea, Crackle as soon as you get your modifiers out. All right, so instead of explaining, I want to show you what a rotation looks like for Crackle in real time. So this is a solo shuffle from this patch with the same exact build that I've shared with you. I do play Clash, so you don't have to play Clash. I do play Counteract Magic because it is Boomy, what is it, Boomy Shadow Priest? Yeah. So you can kind of dispel a lot, but for the most part, I'm just going to try my best to just explain what's going on in this match and kind of what my thought process is while I'm healing through this game. So I'll do a few rounds and just show. So I start off, obviously, put a statue down, port down. Those are the two very important things. Always get your statue down for the extra healing from Peaceful Mending, and get a port down to either avoid CC on you or avoid damage on you. Mistweaver is all about avoiding damage as much as you can. And you can see I just try to get my hots out as much as I can. You can see I got my Renewing Mist modifier. I'm also dispelling for the Counteract Magic buff. You don't do that too often, but it is what it is. This is some damage from the Boomy. So I immediately Yulon. Yulon is the first cooldown I press every single game. 2s, 3s, shuffle, blitz, RBGs. It does not matter. I will always use Yulon first, and I always play Jade Bond because after these chi cocoons right here on my party frames, as soon as they expire or they get broken, a free envelop mist goes on them. So you could see, I don't see many people taking damage, but they should expire soon. You're going to see these Chi Cocoons. You can see how the Boomy Pressed Incarn, the Shadow Priestess PI, and my Chi Cocoons still are, absorbing damage. It's because they're super strong. And if you're stacking versatility as well, they get even stronger. So in a few seconds, boom, you'd see these 3 envelop mists right here, free. It's so good. So this is a free 40% healing buff from the modifier, from your envelop mist modifier. And then also it gives you free renewing mists because of the rapid diffusion. So it's just amazing. It's literally insane. So 100% Yulon always the first cooldown I press. I don't think I dispel my hunter there. I do dispel that stun. I get some counteract magic buffs there too. And I do have a Jade. I do have a Crackle buff here. I think I get sleptwalked, which is okay. It is what it is. They don't have a way to dispel the sphere, but I can just sit it. I dispel as much as I can before the silence, which is great. And I'm just trying to keep my renewing mist up. Always have your renewing mist recharging at all times. I revive all the dots there. I CC the dragon, the sweep, and then also a fear. And I feel like I try to go for a panda. I feel like I'm definitely going to try to panda this. I get root beamed. Do I panda? No. No Flying Shroud, sadly. Can't get the fear on the hunter. Panda the priest, though, because they're doing damage. And then I go for an expel harm there because the absorption shield is really nice with Thunder Focus Tea. Dispel dots. And I just have a ton of renewing mist out right now. So I should probably just press one. I think I trinket this into a life cocoon and then envelop mist on myself here. Put a renewing mist on my teammates as well. And I feel like my PC is about to explode with these graphics, by the way. And you can see the dragon. I'm just trying to ring a piece them LOS, essentially. Trying to dispel that fear, probably. Dispel that fear. And you can just see all I'm doing is I'm trying to help my team avoid as much CC as possible. I keep my renewing mist on at all times. Always have your renewing mist rolling on your team. Always have those charges recharging and healing with my Crackle. And then whenever I get free time, I always try to go for the Soothing Mist into Vivifies as much as I can. Great leg sweep here. Dragon has no trinket. I go for Crackle for healing a little bit of damage. And that's swap from the priest. So we're forcing cooldowns with CC, keeping our team alive with our hots here. And you can see I'm doing a very minimal amount of casting. It's really nice, especially with teams that don't have as much spammable CC. They all have the same DR, right? So it's really, really good. So we're in a great spot here. And I'm just trying to heal as much as I can. Get those renewing mist out. I better be getting those renewing mist out. I got 2 charges of it right now. Root beamed, sadly can't. I do have trinket, but I'm locked out. But I do have Yulon. You see Yulon? See, Yulon puts the Jade. Maybe it's a little bit easier to see the absorptions when people don't have health, but I do have these absorption shields here, and we do get a kill. But these Chi Cocoons would have turned to envelop mists, and I did get my renewing mist out. So that round, just healing with your modifiers. Even though they did so much more damage than us, we were able to heal through it, which is always great. So gonna try to do the same thing this round. By the way, if I was playing hybrid, this is an insane hybrid round because they have so many pets you could just heal. It's kind of crazy. We do get, again, Yulon instantly, straight off the rip. Get those hots out, get those free enveloping mists here, get those modifiers, and I'm just trying to heal as much as I can. Always try to keep those renewing mists going. I do use a renewing mist on my priest there. Always trying to do damage. I get kicked there. Panda on the dragon. I feel like I might try to rop off. We'll see. Do I trinket this? I feel like I do. No, I don't. Revival because he's barely in range. Also, a little note there, I revivaled and I also immune the sleepwalk there. So that's that really good. This was a great situation where this was a really good heal for my teammate, but I also immune CC. So you see the sleepwalk here. I also immune the demon bolt. Boom, I immune the sleepwalk. I'm able to reposition away without having to get sleptwalked, and I also healed my priest at the same time. I get my modifiers up, so you see I got at least my envelop mist out, and I go for a Crackle. There's going to be situations where it's not a perfect world. That's why PvP is fun. In a perfect world, you'd be able to get every modifier out, but you can't. So I only got an envelop mist out. It's 40% extra healing. Crackle does enough healing where it should be good enough. So very, very good. Trapped, 8-second fear because I have a pressing roar on me. A little unfortunate. I do trinket it, and I get feared again. So fantastic. And I probably go for a Shaylin here. So you see a big Shaylin gift there. Really nice. I do trinket. I got envelop mist off. Get feared. I feel like I have this envelop mist up with this thing. I actually don't. Do I? I think I did. Right at the end, I got that envelop mist because I get the Shaylin gift off with the envelop mist. So you can see that big heal just from the envelop mist hot and then just Shaylin I do get trinket there from the dragon. Always trying to be a little bit more aggressive. Always try to leg sweep as many people as you can. It's always so valuable if you can get a leg sweep on the DPS and healer. It's so good. I think we have Siphoned up on the... Yeah, I think we had Siphoned up on the dragon. Yeah, we had Siphoned. They didn't kill it. Got on the dragon. Got a kill there. So a lot of value from Revival there. A lot of value from Dispelling Dots. And then also making sure our modifiers stay up. And then Thunder Focus T Crackle. I would definitely say Crackle is much easier now than Hybrid. I think Hybrid is a lot more... I think a lot of people put down Hybrid just because, you know, positioning wise, you could be you're a little bit more free to like stand out in the open, stand on top of teams so that they break your CC. But I actually think the Hybrid rotation is more difficult than Crackle. Crackle mostly comes down to faking interrupts and landings and trying to avoid CC, which is also a fun game to play. Same thing. You know, we're trying to just keep our modifiers up, our Renewing Mist, get our Zen Sphere of Hope out on my Boomy because I feel like they're going to try to hit them. And then I port, trying to avoid any CC. Leg sweep there, go for a DR Panda. I guess this round didn't do too much, but let me see if there's any more rounds here that are worth playing. I guess this one could be a good one. Let's see. Yeah, so we just get our hots out. Again, always make sure you get your Sphere of Hope out. Get your hots out. There's a lot more spread damage here, so this is a good one. I get Envelop Mist on everybody. Got my Chi Harmony on everybody as well. And I don't have a Crackle buff. I do have it now, and then I go for a Crackle. So you can see those modifiers. Just look how much healing it does. And I have back-to-back Crackles too because I had two charges of it. So very important there. And you can see I don't have a whole lot of time to Rising Sun Kick for instant Vivifies. So that talent just seems dead for Crackle for sure, which is a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. I mean, just going to try to do our best to Soothing Mist and Vivify as much as I can. Get fully trapped here. No Trinket either. So we're trying to rely on our teammates to kind of heal. I do Cocoon my Warlock, and then I Shayloon my Priest there. I don't think I actually had time to get the modifiers out on my Priest. This was just a big heal. Yeah, I actually have no modifiers on my Priest. Oh, no, I do. So you could see this goes out. So you can see that I got an Envelop Mist here from my Life Cocoon because that's a talent. And then it puts a Renewing Mist on. So that actually did get a nice modifier, which is nice. And yeah, no, just healing. I don't have any Crackle right here. I do have a Crackle now, and I just go for one here. I didn't have Zen Focus T, so I do get Root Beamed on it, which is a little unfortunate. If I did play Zen Focus T, I would have immune that Root Beam. I do get a Incap here into a sweep on the healer because I'm always trying to keep my team aggressive. And then I use Ring of Peace because this is, even though a lot of teams have a way to run through Ring of Peace, if they don't expect it, you still get that first knock before they have a way to get through it. So this prevents them from, this also knocked the dragon down, and it also prevented the Boomy from LOSing, and we get the kill. So this is a shuffle of Crackle. Stay on the pillar to LOS as much damage and healing as you can. Use your port to avoid CC, and then you're going to hear me say it a million times, but I get those modifiers out with Renewing Mist and Enveloping Mist and Sphere of Hope, and then you start healing, whether it's with your Shayloon's Gift, with your Vivify, or with your Revival or anything like that, or with your Crackle. That is the bread and butter of this build, and that's how you heal with Crackle. All right, so now that we talked about both builds, let's talk about the best team compositions to play. And this doesn't change too much depending on if you're playing Hybrid or Crackle, because you can kind of interchange them. But I just want to say the best comps, like the S tier comps, a lot of the comps don't depend on the Mistweaver a lot. You're essentially just healing. There are certain comps like RMP, for example, that rely heavily on the Priest with setups and damage. Mistweaver isn't like that. You're going to play whatever's good. So I would say Shadow Play, which is Demo Warlock. Shadow Priest is going to be really good. Ret Warrior is always good with Mistweaver, especially Hybrid, because you can kind of tip teams over the top with the rushing wind kick damage. Mage Lock is really good because Mage and Locks have to cast, so it helps with interrupts if you're playing Crackle, but also teams are hella slowed with Frost Mages, so you can play Hybrid with it as well. They're also really durable, so you can play Hybrid, do some damage as well. Feral Ellie is insane to play with. They're rotting, but they're also super tanky. Lock Shaman is what I got Glad with pretty much every season. I get Glad with Ret Warrior with my friends, and then Mage Lock a lot of the time, and then last season was Feral Ellie. So I don't think much of that will change. And then finally, Demon Hunter, Ellie Shaman. So what you're really trying to play with is any of the tanky specs. You have the Rets, the Warriors, but then the tanky casters are the Mages, the Ellie Shaman, and the Warlocks. Any combination of those classes will work, but those are the top comps. I think, 5 or 6 comps I would recommend playing if you're just trying to push and play the best, essentially. Defensives. So the skill cap of Mistweaver, in my opinion, comes from your ability to stay alive and rotate your defensive cooldowns as well as keep your team alive. So I want to just quickly, not too quickly, talk about the rotation of defensives you should be pressing to just ensure you stay alive as long as possible. And again, this is both for hybrid and Crackle. So this works for both. First of all, the first cooldown you should rotate at all times is port. Whether you're playing Eminence or not, it doesn't matter. You have 2 ports. Use it, right? You could use this to avoid CC, which is a common thing, but if you're being targeted, just port. I mean, it's a 45-second cooldown, 30 seconds if you're playing Eminence and you don't use it while stunned. This should be your number 1 cooldown pressed. It gets you LOS of enemies. You could free cast while you're behind the pillar. Super important. So first rotation, always port. The next one kind of depends on what you're queuing into. You have Diffuse Magic, and then you also have Fort Brew. So Diffuse Magic makes it so you reduce the cooldown on magic damage you take by 60%. This is really good if you're not in a stun and you're playing against something like Shadow Priest, Boomies, even Affy Warlocks, but be careful because this will dispel Unstable Affliction on you and you will take damage. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to kill yourself from this, which has happened quite a bit. So Diffuse Magic, very, very important. This is just for yourself here. So Diffuse Magic, I would just use it when you leave stuns. Really good versus any casters. Fort Brew is the one that's a 1.5 minute cooldown, but it lasts for 15 seconds. So I try to use this before stuns on me. Anything by a Demon Hunter or a Rogue or even like a Shadow Priest Psychic Horror stun or Hodge from a Pally. This is so good if you can use before a stun because it increases your health and it reduces the damage you take. So this works with, Health Stone because it increases your health. And also your healing elixirs right here. Those will heal for more because you have more health. So stuff like that. Always try to use this before a stun. So those are your self cooldowns or your, the defensive you can use on yourself. As far as Life Cocoon and Revival go, these are your main healing cooldowns. Now that Restoral and Revival got 100% buff and they actually heal, they actually heal, which is fantastic. You kind of want to greed these a little bit. Usually they were only healing for I don't even know, 20% of my health. They're doing 50 to 60% of my health now. So try to make sure you get full value. Make sure your team is actually taking rot damage. It's an AoE heal, so it also works with Smoke Bomb as well. So keep that in mind. But Restore is super important. You can use it while stunned. Try to greed it a little bit. And then Life Cocoon. So this depends. So if you're playing Conduit of the Celestials with Crackle, this is actually the first cooldown you press. This is the number 1 cooldown you press because you want to get value out of the Heart of the Jade Serpent. So if you Life Cocoon, you're gonna want to use it first because then you can Conduit, Sheilun's Gift, get the cooldown reduction on your Life Cocoon to make it reduce cooldown, which is really important. If you're playing Master of Harmony, Life Cocoon is pretty much your only major cooldown. You obviously have Revival, but that's over a 2 minute. That's 2.5 minute cooldown, which is just insane. Life Cocoon is essentially your first cooldown. So make sure you're using it when you actually need to and not just on a whim. Use it when someone is actually about to die or you can't heal through the damage. If you really feel like you can't heal through the damage, just use Life Cocoon, but you cannot waste it. My biggest suggestion is you cannot overlap any of these cooldowns. Yu'lon and Chi-Ji are also their own cooldowns. I explained their rotations. They both do a ton of healing. Biggest tip I can give you to any Mistweaver that might be struggling with healing or keeping your team alive or keeping yourself alive, just make sure you're not overlapping your cooldowns. Really, just make sure you are not overlapping your Revival with Yu'lon. That is a major overlap. That is a 2.5 minute cooldown with a 2 minute cooldown. That is really bad. So keep that in mind. Try not to. This guy's cheering at me. Just make sure that you're not overlapping cooldowns. Same with if you overlap Life Cocoon with Revival, round's over. Round is over. What you're trying to do is you're trying to space out your cooldowns and weave them in a way where you always have an answer to what the other team has. Otherwise, they're going to back you into a corner. You have no cooldowns. You're going to be forced to cast. They're going to kick you or CC you, and you're not going to be able to keep your team alive. Finally, your mobility is probably one of your best defensive cooldowns in general. So your mobility, your Chi Torpedo, your Tiger's Lust are all so important to just get away, especially if teams are targeting you. So you could easily just port away and then just kite. Love being able to port, run around the pillar, jump, roll, run around the pillar, and just keep healing yourself with your new Mystic Spell Harm. So just keep that in mind. You could also use this while kicked as well. So if you do get kicked, Chi Torpedo away, run away. You could use Tiger Lust while you're kicked too. So bait out a kick, and then Chi Torpedo and Tiger's Lust away, and you can just get away from the enemy team, which is really nice. Most of the time, use Song of Chi on the pillar, try to just get away from them. But your mobility is extremely important. You can kite from pillar to pillar, right? You can port and then kite from the pillar, Tiger's Lust away, get around the pillar, Renewing Mist, Envelop Mist, heal, Renewing Mist, Expel Harm to heal yourself, and then you're just trying to buy time. If teams are targeting you, your goal is to buy time until your next port, and then you port. And then you can maybe, port away. They use the mobility to get to you. Maybe they don't have mobility to get to you now, and they force you to hit your teammate. So that's your goal. Your goal is to port, use your Fort Brew or Diffuse Magic in between your ports, and then the next DR port away. And you just keep doing that the entire game that they target you. Next up, I want to talk about macros real quick. So macros are, I love macros so much. And I have a ton of them. In the paste bin in the description, by the way, you can have every single macro I have. I try to keep it updated as much as possible. I heavily love Arena 123 macros. So I have a lot of Arena 123 paralysis, kick, clash, and grapple. And then I also have party 1-2 and self Tiger's Lust macros, which I think are super important. The other important macros is my dispel macros. This is party 1, party 2, and then dispel myself. So highly recommend if you want to be able to dispel quickly, I would also make those macros. As far as other macros go, there isn't anything crazy. There's the classic life cocoon macro. This will make it so you only life cocoon your teammate. The no mod at target help no dead exists makes it so you cannot accidentally life cocoon yourself if someone's dead, mind controlled, anything like that. So this is really, really good. I highly recommend. You don't need to use all the toys, of course, but I would recommend this dash cast line. And then the other important macros are the hybrid ones, which I would highly, highly recommend. So Tiger Palm, there's the Blackout Kick, and then there's the Rushing Wind Kick one. What this is going to do is this is going to make it so you don't need to target an enemy to do damage. So if you're just, this is really good for Rushing Wind Kicks. It makes you target people, which is super annoying. But what this does is I could target this guy, and then I could Rising Sun Kick, and you can see I Rising Sun Kick and Blackout Kick. Oh, no, it's a different macro. But I can Rising Sun Kick without having to target anybody. See, I'm doing damage. I don't have to target a single person. And that's what those macros do. They do it for Rushing Wind Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm. And those will also be in the description. And then the other important one is this Crackling Jade Lightning macro. I think it's this one right here. So what this does is this has a few conditions in it that I made. And I made this macro. So if there's anything funky about it, please let me know. I'm more than happy to make adjustments. I haven't run into many hiccups with it, but what this is going to do is this is going to crackle your teammate's target if they're targeting an enemy. If you're targeting an enemy, it's going to crackle them as well. Really, really important. And I do the same thing with Zen Sphere. So this macro, this will put Zen Sphere and ping whoever my teammate is targeting, or if I'm targeting a teammate, it's going to put a Sphere of Hope on them. So target of target macros, Arena 123 macros, and then a lot of hybrid macros that I will put all in the description. They're also in the GitHub link that I have, so I would also suggest that. As far as anything else goes, I have a ping statue. It's not really that crazy, but I do have a ping statue macro right here. You just ping where it is. It's an at cursor ping. Nothing too crazy. I just have that pinged. And that is it for the macros. Again, they're all linked. They're all yours. You can have them. And if you want to change them or if you want a new one and you have any suggestions, please let me know and I'm more than happy to make them. Finally, as far as tips and tricks go, I tried to say as many tips and tricks as I could during this video, but I also have an entire video. I think it's almost 45 minutes long. I did at the beginning of the expansion and all of them hold true today. So I have an entire video. I'll link in the description. I'll also put it in one of the corners of all the tips and tricks that I've learned over the years that I want to share with everybody, also with examples. And that is it for this video. I know this is a little bit of a longer video. I tend to ramble in these videos just because I can't ramble in any other kind of video. I try not to. So these videos, I tend to let myself just talk because I could talk about Mistweaver all day, every day. And I want to help as many people get good, learn about Mistweaver as much as I can. And I want this video to be good enough to bring someone from a beginner to someone that knows essentially everything or as much as they can about Mistweaver. So with that said, thank you to everybody who has watched this. I genuinely do appreciate it. If you ever have any questions, please let me know. I am more than happy to answer any questions you might have. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And that is it for me. Hope everyone has a fantastic rest of the day. Hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you later.